All right, what's that one poem? It's like Billy hop over the campfire log, or Johnny skip over the, I don't know. But we're gonna make a candlestick. So what I do is I wet the old wheel head down. Yeehaw! Let it on down. Then I remove a lot of that water. I take a lump of clay, and I don't know what this is. I'm guessing it's around a pound. Once again, I didn't think it through. I'm gonna throw that there. I'm gonna center it up. Now, I haven't done one of these for a gazillion years, but I think I can figure it out. I'm just gonna try. So the first thing I would do would be center it. And I'd probably center it about the width I figure the candle holder would be. And I think when it's all said and done, I would probably want it to be about that width. Not sure, but that's what I'd guess. Now this is where it gets tricky. You know how before we've always held here and we've opened up, right? That makes sense to most everyone, I imagine. I'm gonna hold it right here, and I'm gonna open it up right there. Now this is where it's tricky. I'm keeping pressure. And then I'm just gonna lean this out a little bit. So now I'm left with that right there. So this is where it's a little bit hard to get in here, but I'm gonna give it a shot. So now I wanna open this up. I don't want to go too far down. And keep pressure here. And press. And so this is where the candle holder is. So I can decorate or build this however I would like. I think it should be a little narrower. Maybe it'll come out, maybe it'll go back in, maybe it'll come out, maybe it'll go back in. I'll probably call it pretty good. But now I'm like, well, that's like the world's largest freaking candle I've ever seen. I mean, who has a candle that big? So I'm probably gonna narrow it up a little bit. So let me do what I did, but let me just narrow it in. So I'm just gonna trim it, collar it, and collar it. And then I wanna pay attention to this right here. And I'll probably use my rib. Not like my own personal rib. Keeping that right in here, tucked underneath a nice layer of protection. But I use this for a rib. So I hold this right here. I'm gonna square that on out to the outside. I like this in here. I want to keep that looking fancy. Probably use my sponge to clean up that disaster of a mess out here. I think that looks pretty good. Now this is going to shrink. And so if this was to shrink 10 to 15% or 8 to 12% or who knows, someone smarter than me percent, I think that looks about right because that would get smaller. And regardless, it's smaller the further in there you go. So I'm gonna make it a little bit smaller so it doesn't look right now that I said it out loud. So I'm gonna shrink this in a little bit more. I'm gonna shrink that in a little bit more. I'm now gonna go back to this again. And I like this here, that new fancy design. So you can do whatever you want, but that's what I'm doing. So I'm calling that good. Now out here, this is the part that we did earlier. I want to make this into a nice little bowl-ish shape. And you're like, why on earth would it be that big of a bowl? I don't have a good answer for that. I think that's pretty darn big. I don't know who on earth would want it to be that big. I mean, you put a handle out here, but then at that point, I mean, why? Maybe if you had like some sprinkly incense stuff you put in there, like potpourri. But Grateful Dead doesn't live in my life, so I'm getting rid of that. So I would trim this down by using the needle tool. Holy guacamole, be careful you don't mangle what you made. Get rid of that. Can we all live by advice like that? I think that's pretty good life advice. Careful you don't mangle what you made, right? I mean, it's pretty much, that's some good advice. Don't mangle what you made. I mean, that's words to live by. So, yep. I'm gonna clean out this in here. Gonna compress this right here. I'll trim this nice later. I think that looks pretty good. And I'd put a little handle on this probably, so that way I could carry it around. And that's what I would call for a candle holder. I mean, it's just one idea. There's like a gazillion ideas. We're not reinventing the wheel here. You know, Jack Be Nimble, he did a long time ago. So you probably got that. Trim it off. And that's it. That's it.